Against this right back, Charlie, definitely.
There's always just that active red back defenders. I think it's like.
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian. Man. Come on. Oh, technical difficulties that can't stop the grind, man. We're back again. By now, you already know the dynamic duo that we are. How you doing, my guy?
Nice shirt.
It is a lot nicer, man. Good look sold separately, though.
Looks very good. Actually, looks good on you.
Yeah, man. You should get one. You should get one.
I don't. I fear it may not suit me.
I look like a cyclist, man. But yeah, at least it works with this green screen. When I try to do my watch alongs, it looks a whole different color. They did me dirty, man. But at least we got the Champions League logo and that on it, man. We're dripping, man.
Anyone on the back?
Of course.
Of course.
Oh,
oh, ladies.
Take a wild guess. Take a wild guess what number I got.
I think you got Martinelli 11.
Nah, man, I've got my damn self. DG number 13, my bro. I stuck you up there, mate. Like, I ain't getting no player on the back of my shirt. The last player I got, my guy, was Thierry Henry. Then after that, I got Alexis Sanchez. And my dad always used to tell me, don't get players on the back because they will leave one day. And yeah, man, never again. As much as I would love Martinelli or Saka.
They love the club. They would play here for free, my friend.
This guy, man. Oh, yeah, obviously, you know, how you feeling about the Monaco game? Let's jump straight into it. It's our last game of pre-season. Sunday, we get going, man.
Yeah, it was pretty boring, to be honest. It was pretty like, you know, I think we don't necessarily always want to admit when Arsenal games don't necessarily live up to expectations, but it was boring. I think it comes from a slightly disjointed pre-season that we've had. I've seen different ways of approaching it. I suppose my overall take is pre-seasons, you can only really judge them in hindsight, because it's basically to the point of, you know, if we sat there 3 games into the league season and we're looking confused and we're looking like, you know, disjointed and it's not quite working, well, we can all look back at pre-season and go, well, that's where it started. In the same way that last preseason we looked unbelievable and then went into the season and won however many, 50 games in a row, wherever it was. So, or got 50 points. So, like that, we can only judge them in hindsight. And I just feel it's really hard to know. So, because the thing is, you could argue, is he playing around with loads of different players to get them fit for the season, to have a deeper squad, to not have to, have like players coming off the bench not being sharp, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know. We can only know in hindsight. So I find it really hard to analyze, to be honest.
I think you said it there. You can only really know in hindsight. I think some football fans think pre-season is this magical place. You run off for a couple of weeks. You improve all the things that you were great at, and all the errors in your game or, areas that need improvement, you've kind of ironed them out. It doesn't work like that. I agree with what you said, because I always say, personally, I don't think you'll see until 10 or so games into the season how good our pre-season is. And your point about hindsight is great. I think it's been a bit of a different pre-season because obviously I think we've done great. We've played in a number of states. Players are playing. We've had to cope with injuries. Zinchenko's played no part. Now we're missing Jesus. And I think it's a bit different from last year in that we quote unquote had a settled 11 of sorts. Now it's more of a squad. In hindsight, with Zinchenko's kind of fitness, I'm starting to believe maybe that's where Arteta was trying to see who could potentially play as an inverted left back. Timber's probably been one, and I'll ask you on that later, but he's probably been one of our players of pre-season. You've seen a bunch of things, and I actually think it's been a pre-season that's been good. I think there's been development. I think it's highlighted our concerns. When you look at the goal we conceded yesterday against Monaco, we look at the 2 against Barcelona or so, and obviously the ones against Man United. Those are errors that were in our game, whether it's individual mistakes, not being good on the transition. So I think it's kind of a case of, it's been a good preseason. Out of 10, I'd give it an 8. You would have loved to have obviously beaten Man United, and that's where the 2 marks are done. But I don't think you can complain, really. We got our 3 big signings in early. Rice seems like he's getting better with every game. Timber's probably been the one that's hit the ground running the most. Havertz is still learning his craft. So I don't really think you can complain. Based on yesterday, it was nice to win a penalty shootout. We might have to rely on that on Sunday. It's that I couldn't believe Ramsdale saved one, let alone Fabio Vieira actually scoring his. It's a dream.
I was going to say on your point in pre-season, I think when you're a team who look to play in a very cohesive, collective way, like let's say, for example, for argument's sake, we were a team that like to play on the transition, a team that like play for set pieces, a team that like play for get scrappy, like picture kind of whatever team reference team you have, Burnley early 2010s, or whatever you want, that kind of attritional football, right? I think then it's very easy to get yourself back into that, because that's just about an attack. When you're dealing with patterns and shapes and angles
and relationships and different layers of the team, and yeah, you're right.
Exactly. It's a lot harder to get it to work. It has a higher ceiling, but it takes a longer time to get it going. If Arteta was the type of manager who, let's say, was a Conte type manager, he could have come in, got us really compact. We probably would have got like 5th or 6th first season. He probably would have come in and probably got us 5th, 6th, around there, and I think we would have struggled to get any further, because the football wouldn't have been good enough to beat the likes of.
It's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable to beat City, to beat Liverpool, to beat whoever. So I think there's also that element of it in preseason, that we've changed so many parts. We're changing around so many different things, that those fancy term cooperative superiorities, the idea that, when you understand the game to a different level, that is what takes us beyond up and above into first and second position. So it's just going to take some time, and we just have to be patient. And Arsenal fans are not known for their patience, or football fans aren't known for their patience. But
yeah, you're right. Their football fans aren't known for patience, and let alone Arsenal fans. We live in hot take land. We're the best fans ever when we win. It's all doom and gloom when we lose, and everything in between. But that's what we love about football. What did you make of Declan Rice in the 8? Because personally, I think he had some good actions. He put a couple of decent balls into the box. Probably unfortunate not to score. As a superb tackle by the Monaco lad. And for me, I like how Declan Rice is playing. Really, I think there's more gears to his game, as we've both discussed, where he could obviously get goals and assists and show, like you saw that pass from Jorginho, everyone's waffling about on socials. Declan Rice has that in his locker. In my opinion, he'll probably play as a 6 initially, but as he learns what Arteta demands of him, you'll see that side. But what did you make of him and Partey yesterday together?
Yeah, I thought they looked good. That they're both. I think two things really. I thought his relationship with Martinelli looked interesting.
Very good relationship over there, right?
Something to have a look at and see if that develops, and we'll see. But I think he did a lot of nice sort of underlapping runs to create space for Martinelli. He combined with him well on the left hand side, so no problem there. I think what I feel is, once this Arsenal team gets going, it's going to be very hard for us to get the ball off us in the midfield. I mean, you have Thomas Partey, you have Declan Rice, and you even have Kai Havertz, who isn't a guy under contact, but is someone who can really anticipate sort of balls through.
I really like his tactical fouls, I'm not going to lie. I think him, Odegaard and Jesus, they can help us a lot in that regard.
And I think if he adds a bit of intensity to his game, similarly to Odegaard, he understands blocking lanes, he understands how to stop teams playing through us. So I think we have a nice mix in there of sort of physical aggression and physical ability to get the ball off you, aerial dominance as well, in terms of the height and the technique of doing that. So I think I look at us and I think, however that sets up, I think there's a real opportunity for Arsenal to be centrally extremely compact next season. You have a look at us, I don't know how you necessarily measure
throw Timber into what you're saying as well, man. I believe what you're saying, man.
Yeah. So I don't know how you'd measure it. Let's say turnovers in the second third, or on the middle of the pitch. I think Arsenal will be top for that, because I just don't think people will get the ball off us in that zone. Which then, and possibly this is where this can go, then changes how you approach the game. If your strength is, let's say, Rice and Partey yesterday.
He's left, mate. He's left.
What? If you know for a fact you have Rice and Partey, and that's your midfield anchor, that's how you've got Timber coming in, you've got that level. You then start to go, okay, we know we are the best, let's call it transition control team in the world. Let's say we get to that point. Let's say that's 3 months' time, we know we're there. What then changes around that? I think build-up starts to be different. And then you come to the David Raya question.
Because we've got more lanes, man. Or more options, better yet.
To a degree, I'm talking about going long. Because I think something that we're seeing it from Ramsdale as well. He is electing to go long, and I've seen people concerned.
You saw it against Barca, actually.
Yeah, you see it a
lot. We scored. You're right.
We scored a goal from it, right? But Raya's long passing is like the best.
Hey, hold off on Raya, man. Hold off. We've got structure here, like Arteta said. Hold off, man. We can't talk about players that aren't at our club just yet in this live stream, my friend.
But yeah, I just think the way we're playing can be, because that's where our strength will be, central compactness in terms of controlling transitions, not being able to be got sort of in behind because of Gabriel Saliba's pace that we saw last season, and then the press really worked. I think we're going to be so hard to break down that we can then approach the game in a different way. I think
As we should.
Starting to see that with Rice and Partey.
I think for me, the only underlining factor I would say from pre-season is kind of off the back of what I saw last season. I don't expect, as I said earlier, I don't expect it to change. I just think, regardless, I think we're an improved defensive side. I don't think we're necessarily a defensive side where it comes to winning titles. And I did think that was kind of, watching the game again against Monaco, I did kind of think that was highlighted. I think Saliba's a very lucky man to, when he was drugged out wide on the yellow, not to be sent off. I personally think we were quite fortunate. You know, the post saved us from Ben Yedder. I just think it's a case of we need to be better on the transition and stuff that, you know, all defensive aspects that were there last season, even the goal we conceded from a dead ball scenario. I don't want to be a stickler for pre-season, but that's just an element of our game. But other than that, it's all been positive. As you said, Arteta's taken what he initially did last season and whatnot, and he's taking it to another level. So we're really laughing. What did you make of Smith Rowe and Fabio Vieira? Now, I see all your tweets about Fabio Vieira, so I know you've got a lot to say, or maybe not to say about him. And I don't know for Smith Rowe with you yet.
Smith Rowe, because he's a bit simpler, I just still don't think he's fit. I think he's blowing. I think he's still, from a cardiovascular standpoint. I spoke to someone, maybe this is why I think this, because I spoke to someone at a Premier League club who's a physio, who's an Arsenal fan, but like one of our rivals. And he said that the concern, not necessarily within the community, but his thought is that he thinks Smith Rowe isn't fit, like physically fit enough to deal with the capacity of the game. Now, a lot of that could be down to, yes, he's still coming back from an injury. He's not at game level. You know, he's not had loads of minutes, etc., 100%. But the treadmill's there, buddy. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you can be the fittest guy in the room. Like, I appreciate that you aren't getting the minutes, and that's a different type of fitness. It's much more of a stop-start. It's much more, but you can still train that off the pitch. It's not the only place you can get that. The level, yes, okay, and the intensity is different, and there is a little bit of a gap, but it's not huge. And I just think the cardiovascular side of his game limits what he can do. I just think if you watch him, he just looks a little bit puffed out to me all the time. That could just be because I'm like viewing it through that lens now. That's my take now. But once I've thought that, I can't get it out of my head now. I don't see anything that's contradicting that. But I'm interested in your thoughts on that. And then Fabio Vieira, yeah. Look, there's a cultural shift that needs to happen at Arsenal, right?
He's an enigma, man.
That's a polite way of putting it. There's a cultural shift that needs to happen at Arsenal where we get comfortable with saying a player is very good. This player is very good. Evidently, a very technically gifted footballer, right? He is. He is a good player.
He's sitting up, people. Listen. He's sitting up.
to make this point. And we can say that. And at the same time, we can look at the player and say, is he going to win us a title? Is he going to be part of a squad that wins us a title? And right now, I don't think any Arsenal fan can look you in the eye and say, I truly believe Fabio Vieira is at the level to come in, deputise for Saka on the right-hand side or Ødegaard in the right 8 and win us a title. That's as simple as it is. It's not. And then the problem is because as we spoke about at the end of last stream, the currency of these websites that we have these conversations on is engagement. So what happens is you hold two truths. Fabio Vieira is a fantastic football player who should be playing at the top level.
All right, two truths can live in the same realm. I didn't know that, man, on social media. I really didn't. This is news to me, man. But go on.
It would be if you live your life on Twitter.
Oh, wow.
But the other truth is that I just don't think, and I just don't think he's at the level. And the problem is, as well, is I understand that when you speak to people about him, what happens? They go, yeah, but he hasn't. Yeah, but he hasn't. Yeah, but he hasn't. Yeah, but he hasn't. He hasn't. He didn't have a preseason last year. Yeah, but he's been. But he hasn't been without Ødegaard. And are there other players that we make that many excuses for?
That's a fair point.
In our team? Are there any other? Maybe like Not even Eddie, because a lot of people write Eddie off.
I can't lie, we'll get on to Eddie. I think people are just damn right disrespectful in relation to Eddie and Nketiah, if I'm honest with you. Like you just mentioned, two truths can live in the same realm. I think we're Eddie, we're going off topic now. I think, with Eddie, I think he's a competent player in Mikel Arteta's system of what he demands of a striker, especially a system and we spoke about this in the last stream. Of course, we'd love Eddie to be a bagsman, someone that lives, breathes, and goal and with goals, because we get closer to 100. I don't think he's got the capacity to do that yet, but I think he's competent in that role. He showed it last year. If you look at his development since he stepped into the first team, his hold up plays improved, his link up plays improved, his positioning's improved. I think he's competent in that role. Whether he's good enough, whether we want him to be the guy that deputizes ahead of Jesus, whether we want to be in a scenario where we're about to play a cup final in Wembley and start our season with a drop off from Jesus to Nketiah, whether that is acceptable or fans are with that, then unfortunately for me, I believe, as much as I like Arteta, that's a question for Arteta. That's a broader statement. I can't, me and you sit here and we praise Mikel Arteta for building the squad and the depth and all of these things and the options, rightly so. So the logic of that is, if we have to rely on Eddie and Nketiah, just like for the last 2 years where we've missed out on Champions League and missed out on the league where we've relied on Holding, I have to kind of place that at the feet of Mikel Arteta, because arguably they shouldn't be in those positions. Going back to Smith Rowe, I kind of don't think he's fully fit. I kind of see where you're coming from, in the sense of, he's coming back from a big injury. He played for England. He's been getting that was his first start against Monaco. I think he's feeding himself into it. I think he started off well and kind of went quiet. And I think in relation to Fabio Vieira, I'd describe it, bro, as simply just indifferent. It's just more of the same. Like physically, he's not there. Lovely, gifted technically, even though I don't think his end product was good enough yesterday. And it's a bit of a difficult situation, because when he signed for the club in the Athletic, he said, I like to play as an 8 or as a 10. I'll play wherever Mikel Arteta wants me, right? We had Granit Xhaka, Odegaard, two of the first names on the team sheet. Unless you do something extremely amazing, you're not getting ahead of them. Now you've got Havertz. Now you've arguably got Declan Rice in that 8 ahead of you. You've obviously got a couple of players that can play in that role. You're kind of effed in that regards. Odegaard's always going to play in the 10 ahead of you. You're not a wide playmaker like Saka, or a wide forward in Saka's case. So you're not really going to see the best of you. So it kind of becomes redundant to say, give him a run of games and things. I honestly believe for Smith Rowe, it's more just a confidence thing, and that will come. Fabio Vieira, I think the best thing he could do is just talk to Bernardo Silva and just become more physically robust, because Arteta has got to have seen something he likes in you. But as you said early in the last stream, sometimes we've got to be a bit ruthless and just say, do you know what, you're a good player, but you might not be the guy and your role might become obsolete. It does appear that Mikel Arteta has a fetish for these 8.5s now. You might become a bit redundant if you don't put any, lay down any markers. I do think there's something in the player, because last season there was a time where, I can't remember the period, I think it's actually with the crazy game with Bournemouth, where Arteta said he was asked a question about players that are kind of giving you positive headaches, and he kept saying Fabio Vieira. And I can't remember if Xhaka was in the squad. I actually think he came off the bench. I could stand corrected, but Fabio Vieira started in that Bournemouth game. And as you know, it's harsh if you're getting 10 minutes or one start to really, make a mark, but you kind of have to. And I just think Fabio hasn't done that. I do think, last season, you was injured. You never had a pre-season. You joined Arsenal at the best and worst time in that. Best time we're moving forward. Worst time is that there's not really any spots up for grabs. But we need to learn to cut players loose. And I think for Fabio, he's really got to lay down the marker. What's your thoughts on Eddie Nketiah following this Jesus injury? Because it's evidently not the way we start the season. Who would be your first in command for to play up front? Because some would say Trossard could do it. Martinelli could do it. There's the whole Balogun debate, even though he's injured. And then you've got Eddie, which out of the 3 that are available, 4 that are available, is an out-and-out striker. And I keep forgetting he actually is signed for our club. Kai Havertz can play up there. Arteta's talked about his height and all of that. Where would your thinking be if you was going into City or the first couple of games in the season? Who is it for you?
Trossard. I just wanted to say very quickly on the Eddie thing is the same. It's the same thing as the Vieira thing, just in a different sense. In that, if you think about those front 3 positions, Eddie's probably our 5th choice. You've probably got Jesus, Martinelli, and Saka, and then probably Trossard, maybe even 6th, and then probably Havertz in certain, and obviously they, maybe Havertz could play.
Havertz might even overtake him in that regard slightly.
Yeah, exactly. You could possibly play Eddie on the left, but through the middle, whatever. But I'm saying, in terms of the order of the attackers, who is picked first, Eddie is 5th or 6th. And that's fine, because Eddie's not going to win you a title, but he shouldn't be, as you were referring to, put in positions where he's expected to do so. I think that's what happens with Arsenal fans, is they see Eddie, he's a very good player, probably it's certainly top 10 striker. You could argue top 8, top 6.
Improved a hell of a lot. Just not levels.
He's just not the levels, but he doesn't need to be because he's our 5th or 6th choice. With Fabio Vieira, once Odegaard's out, he's in. So that's why it matters. And you see on the right hand side, who's deputising for Saka? His name's really up there, isn't it? So he provides us a lot of cover, and we're going to need him. And then, as you say, I think he probably is, as you referenced. Mikel was talking about him giving him headaches. He's probably great on the training ground. It's just when he gets up and against it,
he fits in. It's just about standing out essentially now.
Yeah. So we'll see with that. I think I think I'll go with Trossard purely because I look at the group and I have a feeling that, well, certainly Saka and Martinelli will start. And I think in that front three, you then need a facilitator because you have two guys who are, our highest overperformers in non-penalty XG, as I mentioned before. They are our goal getters. So you need a facilitator. Trossard is terrific in close combination. He understands space. He's really good. And I think if you look at sort of his dynamics of him drifting to the left, a combination of Havertz, Martinelli, and Trossard on the left-hand side in the way that I think eventually Havertz, Jesus, and Martinelli will be really good. I think that could be really good if it's given some time to bed in. I have a feeling we'll see him against Man City on Sunday, and I think we'll see him against Forest.
You see, for me, it's a bit of a techie one because I've got a lot of time for Eddie. As you said, whether you rely upon him is a different debate. Of course, I'd like him or another another striker that could get them goals and move us closer to where we need to go. But the one thing I like about Eddie, as much as I'm a fan of all this false nine stuff, sometimes I think you just need a striker who just plays like a striker. And while I want him to be able to score goals, our system is not necessarily reliant on our striker scoring. Goals are spread out all over the pitch. Whether that's a gift or a curse, we'll have to see. And I'm a bit in two minds because, ironically, I think against City, I'd probably start Eddie just because you're more likely to hold up the ball and play like a striker. That's not a strength of Trossard's, as we saw against Van Dijk. But at the same time, I agree with you because I do like the link-up play between Martinelli and Trossard. Like last season when Trossard / Martinelli in game, they're swapping and whatnot. It depends. Does Arteta want someone that's going to be a bit more physically demanding, someone that's going to be a bit more selfless, like Eddie could do against Diaz? Or do we want kind of an approach where you can't mark a target that you can't see and there's forever going to be movement with the Martinellis and the Trossards? I think Havertz is an interesting debate, and a part of me doesn't expect to see it, but a part of me would be intrigued to see him start as a false nine on Sunday, purely because he's more likely to drop in midfield. Martinelli can make runs in behind as well. I'm happy I'm not Arteta in that regard. I'd say the one thing that I could rule out, not that I'm the manager or whatever, is Balogun, because the man's injured. I don't think your hold-up playing that is to Eddie and Nketiah's standard, even though I think you're a better player in theory. I just don't think Balogun will be the guy for that, really. Where are you at with Balogun? Do you still... I'm going to ask you this all the time until the market's done. Is it a thing now where you still want him? Not that you wanted him gone, but if he wants to leave, I think we're of the belief that we'd sell him. Would you keep him around? Because this is where people get their opportunities, essentially.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know with Balogun. I honestly can't read it because I think there's a part of me that goes, I think he's different to Eddie on a character sense, and I think I've said this. I might have said this before in here, but if you look at the way they handled their international allegiances, Eddie's still not decided.
Yeah, you did say this. You said this in the last stream. You alluded to this. You're right.
So Eddie's not chosen, and Balogun basically went, "You pick me or I go." And I think it's essentially the same thing happening at England, and now that could work out for him and at Arsenal. Sorry, and that could work out for him, or it might not. I don't know. But I saw someone say something the other day, and I think I'm not necessarily sure I agree with it, but I think it's an interesting conundrum. There was some rumours that Balogun was saying that he wants Arsenal to basically drop their price tag. He thinks he's being overvalued. But then I'm like, okay, so if you think you're like a £40 million, £50 million striker, show us then. If you think you're that good, like wrong way around. If you don't think you're there, if you think, I'm 30, and I appreciate he wants the move. If you think I'm a £35 million and whatever, where do you think you're going? Because this is if you're expecting to go to like a Brighton or a Brentford or whatever, they've already got great competition. They've got, Evan Ferguson. They've got Joao Pedro.
You're going to struggle ahead of Ivan. I can tell you for free, Ivan Toney's playing ahead of you, Balogun every day of the week until further notice.
what's it? Yeah, that's at Brentford. And then Brighton, they just signed Joao Pedro.
West Ham apparently onto him now as well, allegedly.
So I'm sort of like, okay, so you don't. I appreciate there's a level where you're like trying to pressure the club into getting you a move. That makes sense, and I understand that. But then if you believe that you should be bought for that, like you think, oh, okay, I think this is a fair price for me, somewhere there. I don't understand where you think you're going to. You're going to somewhere where you won't be going in as the number one striker. It's the Premier League. No one's signing their top talent striker, number 9, guaranteed every day of the week at a club that you want to go to for £30 million. It's not happening.
Yeah, unless you find a madness. Yeah, you're right. Still.
So I thought it was an interesting point. I'm like, yeah. So maybe it's better for him to stick around and try and prove himself, and then go to be that number one guy somewhere else, or go somewhere else to France or wherever, to a different club. I don't know, but it's a bit of a weird, because he's almost not proved himself. But he's saying don't sell me for much. But we're valuing him at a certain price. It's misalignment at the minute.
I personally think that's just him and his agent. Naturally, I do think Arsenal are right to want top dollar. If we was trying to buy Balogun off the season he had, we'd probably pay more than the 35 to 50 million. I think it's just a case of what we're going to see with a lot of moves, whether that's Kane, whether that was Declan Rice, and that transfer, which for us it happened but would have persisted. I think that's just designed to pressure the club to let the man leave, and I think that's to do with his agents and probably indirect talks with clubs. Really, I don't think Balogun sat there and said drop my price tag. I think he's doing things on behalf of his agent because it's a bit of game playing. I personally think Balogun wants clarity over his future, but I also disagree with that because I think he kind of wants to be told something he's not. I think Balogun isn't in a position to demand being number one for this football club. Jesus is ahead of you. I think in what Arteta demands of a striker, Eddie Nketiah is ahead of you. And as you said, there's the luxury of the Martinellis, the Trossards, etc. Whether you're a ringer, 10 or a striker, only X amount could be on the bench. I'd love for him to sign a new deal, go back on loan, or sign a new deal, get an opportunity, or at least give it until January. But I just can't see it happening. I just think the man wants clarity. And to a degree, I could understand it. You've been Middlesbrough on loan. You've been Reims on loan. If you were to go out on loan again, there's no guarantee that Arsenal necessarily are going to use you next season, regardless of what you would do. There's no guarantee that Arsenal are not going to bring in a striker this time next year or whatever. So I understand it with Balogun. I just think the man wants stability. I think he wants stability. I think he's been enticed by playing on a regular basis. But I do think, and I don't know, just based on how he carries on social media and definitely the fans, I think there needs to be a reality check. I think you're not quite at the level you're projected to be. As you said, two truths can be in the same realm. I hold him in the highest regard. I think the ceiling's high and all of that. But in an Arteta system, it's not just about goals. It's about all the others. And in the little minutes and pieces he had in pre-season, he looked overawed. So I think you're at the right stage of your development, but you are behind. And it kind of comes down to being patient. And in a nice way, I think his patience levels is quite good because a lot of these young players will sit around and not play, like with Eddie. I think the man's developed hell of a lot since he's actually returned from his Leeds spell over at Leeds under Mikel Arteta. But how much better would you be if you play 20, 30 league games? Forget the goals, but how much better would you play? I genuinely think there's a reality within the next 12, 18 months, 2 years where both of them won't be at the club. And if we can get top dollar, why not? I would like him to stay and think, you know what, there might be a little role for me here. Jesus has had a knock with his knee. I believe I'm better than Eddie Nketiah. I believe I have actual striker qualities that Trossard and Martinelli don't have. Let me just go and nail down the spot. But at the same time, I could understand if Arsenal said, you know what, barely played for us. We don't know if he's going to be better or worse next year. And that's obviously going to fluctuate opinions. Let's just take the money and go. I don't know anything, but I expect him to go. I expect the price tag to drop. If West Ham get involved, I don't want that price tag to drop after what they did with us and Declan Rice. Karma's a see you next Tuesday, really. So it is what it is. What have you made of Timber, though? We've got Timber's sick, man. The man's sick. He's great. He's sick, man.
He's really good. I don't know where he plays, but he's great.
Get him in, mate. Get him in, bro.
He's kind of the perfect sort of player for the advert of positionless, numberless football. He's just good.
Facts.
He's good wherever you put him. You can stick him at left back.
Very intelligent Dutch player, man.
Very intelligent player. Looks comfortable receiving in all sorts of areas. Is really sharp in his actions. Drives forward well. Seems to be calming down a little bit from his first couple of games. Looks great, mate. Big fan.
And that's it, short, sweet, to the point, man. I mean, I'm happy with Rice in the 8. The more I see of Havertz, the more I like. I think Havertz is the one that's going to make or break Mikel Arteta's summer personally, just because, you know, Arteta's the man with the plan. He's the mad scientist and we back him all the way. But many people, maybe even internally in Arsenal, if we was talking about centre mid recruits, I don't know how many would have sat there and said, you know what, Kai Havertz, Declan Rice, yeah, Timber if he runs in there, yeah, but I'm not sure on Havertz. But Arteta has shown he'll make difficult decisions. When he got rid of Aubameyang, you know, when he alienated Pepe, when he didn't initially start Martinelli week in, week out, when Saliba went out on loan, people weren't even convinced with Ramsdale, Odegaard and Benjamin White, and maybe some fans still ain't, but it's fair to say them decisions are right. So I give Mikel the luxury and the benefit of the doubt until Havertz shows me anything differently. So all in all, how confident are you going into the season then?
I just need to see us play. Because I don't know. I think like we had a very clear idea last preseason, and that was start quick with the same players. Get Ben White, you know, like Ben White played at right back basically from day one of preseason. That was just, you know, that's what he's going to be doing next season. Now we're looking different because we're trying to be a more unpredictable.
There's almost so many options we don't know now.
Deeper, more hard to read team who have different ways of playing, different ways of moving through the thirds, different ways of, you know, different defensive shapes or everything. So I don't know. And I just need to see us on the grass. I think we're going to be a lot harder to analyze next season, which is exciting for people like you and me, because it's like, okay, how do we make sense
more
of this?
content, lad?
More streams.
Literally more streams, more tactical analysis and the rest of it. You're fully right in that regards, man. You're right, man. What do you make of Jesus Zinchenko's injury overall, though, away from the obvious? Because for me, I'm not going to lie, it does make me nervous. 2 players that are central to the plans. I don't know when Zinchenko's back. Arteta seemed a bit bullish there. I think Arteta was really, really realistic on Jesus, and he said he's out for a few weeks. That could be 2 weeks. That could be 5. Obviously, he's not quite of the same caliber, but even someone like Reece Nelson, he's had a little knock. It kind of sucks to be going into the season with a couple of players having knocks. And, you know, even Declan Rice, he missed out on one of the games. Did he play? I think he played against Barca. I can't remember, but one of the games, no, he didn't, did he? He had a calf knock. He's had a calf knock, and I think it's harsh, isn't it? You know, we've had Saliba and Tomiyasu back, projected quicker than usual and been part of preseason, and we've had them gone. And I am a bit nervous about no Jesus and Zinchenko just because of what Arteta demands of them. But as you kind of alluded to, you've kind of put my concerns to a bit to ease, because Arteta is flirting with different options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the Zinchenko thing is interesting because there's that game for Ukraine thing on Saturday. And I think
they came out today and said it's he'll be in a non-playing role. So I don't know if he's going to be a manager. I don't know if he's influencing. You know, it would be a bit crazy if he was playing. And yeah man, it'd be crazy. It'd be crazy. What's all this about? You know, we got a game on Sunday, lad. What's going on?
You off it?
Literally.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I do think, you know, part of the reason that we've signed Timber, I think part of the reason we're remodeling our left-hand side is to reduce that reliance on Zinchenko. You know,
he does get little knocks
because he gets, you know, I think he missed something like 15, 16 games last season. It's a lot of games for someone you want to be relying on. And I've said this in a recent video. I think Kivior's an option there. I think he'll develop.
Done well in preseason.
Yeah, he's done really well coming to those types of zones. And we relied on him to have control last season. And, you know, it's no surprise that 1-0 down or whatever we were against City in the FA Cup, we bring on Zinchenko. That, you know, that's the player that we think, right, who can get us ticking again. And he's a very good player, but we need to reduce our reliance on him. And it's similar with Jesus, man. Like, if I had my way, I would try and go out and get whichever striker we're going to get next summer, this summer.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Because I just think it's like, why, if we know who it is and if we have the money, which again, that probably is the stumbling block, let's just do it. But Jesus, you know, again, is someone who gets knocks, gets little niggles, gets little strains, pulls.
2 knee knocks now.
Yep. And I think this has come from his last one.
Yeah, the operation thing, yeah.
You know, it's, yes, okay, you get a knee injury, but it's, what does that mean? You know, as I'm sure everyone knows in their life, you get a hamstring problem, and then that causes you a thigh problem, and then your thigh problem causes you a hip bones connected to. And
then suddenly you've missed X amount of games, and you're not quite what you used to be, man. But Jesus is all right in that regard.
Explosivity. So yeah, it's hard to say. I think we have enough options to get through the season. I would love that Osimhen, wherever it is, but
that real goal getter number 9, man. The dream is free. The hustle sold separately. Listen, we got 80 odd goals last year, and as much as I don't think we rely on our strikers to score, just imagine a world where we had someone that's going to get. I'm not going to say Haaland numbers, but Kane got 30 league goals, and no one gives a flying monk. Which he plays first, so I don't care. But no one really gave him hype. Imagine we had that.
Kane is perfect for us.
He is, man. Whoever rreleased him from our academy needs sacking. Really, if I'm honest, he should be at London Coley as we speak, lad.
Yeah.
It is what it is, man. But I agree with you. I mean, I hope we get in the right winger. What have you know, we can't get away. My final two questions for you before we talk about the final one of the Community Shield. David Raya, surely that took you by surprise. Not by surprise, because Arteta's trying to create a squad, but Ramsdale's just signed a new deal. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I mean, we did try and get him. You can see why he ties into our system. You can see the similarities. I think they're quite similar, really, especially in terms of competition. Definitely where Matt Turner and Ramsdale were concerned, it's a lot closer. I think the one thing I would give David Raya that he has in abundance over Ramsdale is that level of focus. As much as I'm a big fan of Ramsdale, I think he's got ADHD. He is prone to some mad stuff sometimes. I still love him, but he's prone to some mad stuff, and it scares me at times.
Yeah, I think the Raya thing. Yeah, I'm conscious. I have a plug this. I have a video coming out about him later on today.
Plug it, mate.
On a different Knock channel, and I basically make the point at the beginning.
Make sure you're subscribing.
I'm conscious of just being like, yeah, it's a good thing because everything around the club feels so good at the minute. Like, I don't want to just be like, you know, oh well, yeah, Raya, yeah, of course he's a great player, get him in, because you have to try and think clearly. But after a few days thinking and after trying to, you know, sort of take it all in, I do think it's a good move because in the end, it's a simple question. Does this make Arsenal better? Yes. Yeah. That's it. And like, we can go on about, you know, well, you know, what about it? Does it block Ramsdale? It's like, well, either way, we either get a better goalkeeper in David Raya who comes in and is better for us. And you look at his like post-shot XG numbers, you look at his goals conceded numbers.
He's lit in so many of them metrics.
Mate, goalkeeping metrics are hard to read because they're so dependent on how the team plays. But in terms of like traditional, you know, he's so proactive off his line in terms of claiming crosses. You know, I looked at him for this content against Alisson and Ederson. He's got those numbers, mate. He has those numbers.
He's lit, and he's 27.
He just needs to be in a team that can you know, basically win more games and put less pressure on him as a goalkeeper. He's an unbelievable player. So either he comes in and he's better, or we see a really hyper-focused Ramsdale who outplays him. We win.
And then the best man wins, yeah.
Exactly. And I think this is part of this culture shift that I keep speaking about at Arsenal. We just have to accept, you know, we look at, Mikel comes out in May or whatever it was and says, you know, this market, we have to be ruthless. And we're all going, yes, great. And then, you know, we go.
He starts doing it and everyone go, oh my God.
Yeah, literally. We
not that ruthless.
He starts actually doing it to our favourite players. And then we're like, no, not that guy.
Not that guy, someone else, man.
But, you know, there was moments last season. Question I asked in this video: is Ramsdale the best player in the world?
No. So he can be improved upon.
It's that simple. And I think Raya is a very, very good player. I think Raya can come in and provide depth. Competition can probably start over Ramsdale. Let's see how that plays out. Let them fight it out. And I think also I understand it from every angle. From Arteta and the coaching staff, he makes us better. Tick. From Ramsdale's side, it's you know, he comes in. He improves you, or you move on. Fine, no problem. And thirdly, from Raya's perspective, from Arteta can just say to him, look, at the moment, there's no big club doing a move for you. You know, the Bayern thing didn't quite work out. You know, Real Madrid has still got Courtois, Ter Stegen's still around.
Chelsea moved away. Spurs, I wouldn't put them in this conversation.
Somewhere else. They're not top 6 club anyway. But, you know, there's not, you know, Newcastle, you know, still got Nick Pope or whatever. But give it a couple of years. You're still 27. Give it a couple of years. All those guys and all those clubs that have got their established.
They might be like, right, especially the Spanish clubs because he plays for Spain.
Exactly. So, I look at Courtois, who's like 32. I look at Ter Stegen, who's like 32, 33. Neuer's like 36. You know, there's going to be a bit of there's always churn, but there's going to be a bit of churn in the goalkeeping position in the next couple of years. And I think Arteta can say to him, look, I won't stand in your way. If you're not playing here and you can move on, it's also more attractive for those clubs as well. Because if you're buying from Arsenal, you go, well, he's played in the Champions League, he's played in the Premier League at the top level.
Facts.
You trust that. If you're buying from Brentford, there is a bit more of a, he's good.
With the greatest of respect to Brentford, because if you ever want to sell Ivan Toney, you know who to give a call.
Exactly. But yeah, so I really support the move. I don't just want to be like it's good just because we're doing it, but I do think it's a really smart move, and Ramsdale just has to fight it out.
Now, I'm fully in agreement with you because it means not that I can accuse Ramsdale or Benjamin White of ever resting on your laurels, but you're living the dream. Well, the Gary Nevilles of this world, they had a lot to say about you lot. You're playing your linchpins. Where Benjamin White's concerned, potentially a new deal. Ramsdale's got a new deal, pushing for England number one. Obviously, you fit the system. You're a key player to Arteta, and I don't think there's complacency, but there's an element of complacency, especially when Ramsdale's made mistakes. Arteta's gone, do you know what? The summer I tried to sign you. I tried to sign David Raya. We've been proactive with the first 3 signings. Now we can be proactively reactive and see what situations the market throws up in which you've got a player who's rejected 2 offers from Brentford for one reason or another. He's not gone to Bayern Munich for whatever reason. They're trying to get 40 million, which I don't believe. And it's a keeper we know and a keeper Arteta likes and a fellow countryman and someone like Arteta that, wow, they're Spanish. They've been in England for a really good time. And the goalkeeping coaches know him. Now, I know the goalkeeping coach also knew Runnison, so it all depends where you're looking at that. But it makes sense, really. And I'm all for it because he's a reliable pair of hands. As you said, he could potentially take Ramsdale's spot and make the best man win. And like you kind of alluded to, again, I don't think Raya is an idiot. There has to be some conversations about somebody being the number 2. We probably will be in a situation where one of them will have to leave at some point. We've been here with Leno and Ramsdale. We had Leno and Cech. You mentioned Courtois. Courtois and Cech went down that route at Chelsea. So we'll have to decide. But ultimately, if it makes our team better, I'm all for it. I would say one thing that I think is a bit unfair to Ramsdale, for all his faults, there's been many times that man has saved our football club and he's done great stuff. And I also feel people, a bit like with Balogun and Eddie, people move like the shiny new toy is faultless. Like David Raya, I just said it myself. I believe his level of focus is 10 times Ramsdale's, but he's also done some silly stuff. I remember when Sterling was at City, he had a mare in a game over there. I think he had a mare against Newcastle, and there's clips from the playoffs when he was playing at a previous club where he's mistimed the judge of a free kick, the flight of the ball. He's judged it wrong, and he just looks stupid. So him and Ramsdale have that, but I'm all for it, man, because this might be an opportunity that isn't there, and especially if not, I want them to accept it. But if one of them are accepting to be number 2, I'm all for that, bro, because as you know, it's very difficult to find someone in that regards. And I don't know, I was thinking about it. Is this a thing where, we've seen this opportunity in the market and we're going to do it mainly because Matt Turner has said, you know what, I'm 29, Gaffer. I've given it my best shot. I can't eclipse Ramsdale, Nottingham Forest, wherever I need to go. And then we said, we need a backup goalie because we don't really have that. I guess we don't know. Final question for you. Do you make it a Community Shield then, man? It's here. Like it's here. City. They ain't had the best of pre-seasons, even though it's City. Where are you at?
If we win it, it's a trophy. If we don't,
it's the English Super Cup. If we win it,
don't worry about it. Yeah, I actually was talking about this the other day. I don't like putting pressure on games, but I actually think this is a really important game.
Man, you got to put pressure on this. How can there not be pressure? It's Wembley.
Yeah, no, but I think like previous Community Shields, I've just been like, well.
True. I'm tired of getting smacked against City as well, bro. So there's pressure.
Where we beat Liverpool, was it like 2021? Just after 2021, I think.
The COVID era one.
That one, yeah. Like, it's just like, so what? They just won the league. We won the FA Cup, and then it doesn't mean anything. So I don't really care about that. But I think this one has a real symbolic meaning because of the team we're facing. I think psychologically, if we can go in there, take advantage of, as you mentioned, their shaky preseason, the fact they haven't replaced Mahrez, they haven't replaced key leaders in their team in terms of Gundogan, Bernardo Silva. There's always question marks about him, but there's lots of things. Okay, Gvardiol's coming in now, but I think they're light up front. If we can go in there, dominate the game, or just put in a good performance, even if we don't win, we have a first half at the Emirates type performance, and we go right. No, we can get at these guys, because I think ahead to next season, I don't know how you feel. I believe at home, we are the favourites against 18 teams.
I can't disagree. I agree.
And away from home, I believe we are the favourites against 16 teams. And I would say the 3 are Old Trafford, Anfield, and the Etihad. You could argue Stamford Bridge, but I don't.
We don't need to worry about St Mary's anymore.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well,
to be fair, Brighton always a difficult one.
Or Brighton's another, yeah. But in terms of the bookies' favourites.
Yeah. The traditional top 4, top 6 title contenders, whatever have you. You're right.
And 2 of those games, 2 of the 4 games that we're not favourites in, is against these guys. So we just have to go out there and get any psychological edge we can. If we went out there, mate, and we smacked them 6-0, right? And it's not going to happen, but if we went out there and smacked them 6-0.
Talk into existence, you never know, man.
Can you imagine? And by the way, I'm on a flight as well, annoyingly, so I can't watch it. But can you imagine the psychological difference? Just going into the next game, when do we play them? In like October or whatever? The team talk before it, the belief that you can go and do it. We lost to them both times last season. Just
3 times if you include the FA Cup, which ironically for me was our best game.
3 times. Yeah, well, yeah, 3 times. When's the last time we beat them? The FA Cup 2020? Like
probably that. Last time we beat them in the league, we had Coquelin and Santi Cazorla. Santi Cazorla is ironically still playing, but it tells you everything.
So psychologically, I think for the players, you can then go as Mikel Arteta, you can go, okay, it's the Community Shield. Yes, so what? It's still the same group of players that you're playing in a couple of months, and you just proved that you can beat them. So psychologically, I think that will have a big switch. I also think it's an opportunity, considering where they're at in terms of they're just going through a bit of an evolution. So I think we can take advantage. So I would be putting a lot of pressure on this on Arteta. I'm saying this is a must-win game. You might think Community Shield, whatever. No. This is a must-win game.
I'm with you with that. And I don't want to hear anyone saying it's just Community Shield, because last time I looked at my players, any major honors exactly. Yeah, this guy. Seriously, any things that you've won at this, you've won in your career, you haven't won major honors. We've got players that have won champs and leagues and all these things. You ain't done it at Arsenal, so you can't afford to be complacent. I think you rightly said it there. You're playing City. They've had our number the last few times. Now, the last couple of games have been closer. Ultimately, they've won. I want you to take this like it's a decisive Premier League game where this could be the difference between winning a title. This could be a cup final. I want them to be fearless. I want all the pressure in the world. I also want them to be fearless, because at the end of the day, it's a football game. It's not like you're a doctor. You make a mistake, someone's dead. Go out there and be fearless. Yeah. Go and give a good time for the fans. Go and show your true level, because even in games we've won, and again, you can't draw too much into preseason. They lost the Community Shield last year. There's certain things we do across 90 minutes, even when we've gone on these great runs. You get away with them, as you said, against the vast majority of teams. City don't give you an inch. And as we've seen, fine margins cost us. And I kind of want us to address the Etihad performance, because that was a very painful game for me, because I think we gave up. I genuinely think I don't think Arteta did. I think the players didn't believe. And as you know, the one luxurious thing about football, yes, having better players correlates, but it's all about mentality. City are not invincible, even though they've done the treble. Only one team that can claim to do that. So I want us to do it, man. I want players to if you're a regular in this team, I want you to feel that pressure that you might lose your spot and put in a performance accordingly. If you find yourself starting or getting minutes where you didn't, act accordingly. So we'll have to see, and we're gonna have to be on it, because there's no Jesus, no Zinchenko, 2 of the players I would want at Wembley, especially Jesus. So we're gonna have to get on with it, man. But we'll have to see. Last question, score prediction then, since you're gonna be on a flight.
English Super Cup champions 3. Paltry rubbish club in the northwest 2. I think we'll win 3-2.
I'm going 1-0 Arsenal / penalties. You know, part of me just thinks we're going penalties. Like I just think we're going to penalties.
I Havertz penalty yesterday.
No, what a pen. Havertz is one of those Jorginho's though, because I was asking my friend this. They were both sick. Like,
yeah,
I might give it Jorginho's,
man.
But then Havertz was bloody good.
Yeah,
that's cold. Like again, like I said at the beginning, the more I see Havertz at Arsenal, the more I like him. I think I'm gonna forgive you for what he did at Chelsea, and I hope he forgives me for the amount of slander names. I never, if he asks, I didn't call you Shy Havertz, it was someone else in it, but you're my friend now, mate. So hopefully we do the job, man, and hopefully we can have a good season. Hopefully, you know, the next couple of times throughout the season we sit here on the various channels and talk about Arsenal. It's positive, but last season's irrelevant. We've got to go out and claim these things, man. You mentioned at the start you've got a video to come out. Plug that again, man.
Yes. It's just about David Wright. It's coming out on the Different Knock channel in 2 hours and 9 minutes. I've got it scheduled for. So that'll be out there. So I'm presuming this will go out after. So it will be out already. So click on the @DiffKnock. Mate, I want to get you on. I've just started a live channel on for the Different Knock. We do every Sunday.
Expansion.
But yeah, I'd love to get you on there. So remind me of that if I don't talk to you about that.
Yeah, just shout me and we'll get that, people. And obviously, you know, I don't think he's plugged his content enough. Honestly, his content is so analytical. You will learn a lot. Don't just check out the video he's talked about. Go and subscribe. All you got to do is hit the link at the time of watching this video in the title and have a butchers, man. There's David Raya stuff. There's concerns about Fabio Vieira. He's got even sometimes when you do them videos where you go a bit left with some of you. And they're the videos I enjoy on your channel the most, really, because I'm like, I didn't really think about that. There's something for all. And he's even got a bit of humor, people. So yeah, man, support the content, check that out, smash the like button, subscribe. But for now, people, we're gone, man. One love for doing that with me, my guy. We're out.
Pleasure.
You always just that active and defending.
I think like